Hello, this is a part of the Separation of Church and State series, Militant Humanism, Freedoms That Have Been Lost in the Last Century. And this will be a quick overview of some court cases, just in a fast sequence, as well as some rulings to give you a feel for what's been lost. Starting in 1962-1963, a verbal prayer offered in a school is unconstitutional, even if it's both voluntary and denominationally neutral. Freedom of speech and press is guaranteed to students unless the topic is religious, at which time speech becomes unconstitutional. If a student prays over his lunch, it is unconstitutional for him to pray out loud. It is unconstitutional for kindergarten students to recite a nondescript poem of thanks. We thank you for the flowers so sweet. We thank you for the food we eat. We thank you for the birds that sing. We thank you for everything. Even though the word God is not contained in it, someone might think it is a prayer. It's unconstitutional for a war memorial to be erected in the shape of a cross. It's unconstitutional for students to arrive at a school early to hear a student volunteer read prayers which have been offered by chaplains in the chambers of the United States House of Representatives and Senate, even though those prayers are contained in the public congressional record published by the U.S. government. It's unconstitutional for a Board of Education to use or refer to the word God in any of its official writings. It's unconstitutional for a kindergarten class to ask during a school assembly whose birthday is celebrated by Christmas. It's unconstitutional for the Ten Commandments to hang on the walls of a classroom, since the students might be led to read them, meditate upon them, respect them, or obey them. It's unconstitutional for kindergarten class to recite, "God is great, God is good, let us thank Him for our food." A bill becomes unconstitutional even though the wording may be constitutionally acceptable if the legislator who introduced the bill had a religious activity in mind when he authored it. This brings us to a new level of thought police. It's unconstitutional for a school graduation ceremony to contain an opening or closing prayer. Further results of these court rulings have established an atmosphere throughout all the 50 states, and I'll just give you a sampling of them. In Alaska, public school students were told that they could not use the word Christmas in school because it has the word Christ in it. In Alaska, public school students were further told they could not have the word Christmas in notebooks, or exchange Christmas cards, or present or display anything with the word Christmas on it. In Virginia, a federal court ruled that a homosexual newspaper may be distributed on a high school campus, but not religious newspapers. In Virginia, public schools were barred from showing a film about the settlement of Jamestown because the film depicted a placement of a cross at the settlement, despite the fact that the historical record is well known that a cross was in fact placed. In Nevada, a 185-year-old symbol of a Nevada city had to be changed because of its religious significance. In Nevada, a fire station was forced to remove a cross, a Christian symbol in remembrance of a fellow fireman who lost his life in the line of duty. In Denver, an elementary school principal removed the Bible from the school library. In Colorado Springs, an elementary school teacher stopped teaching Christmas carols because of alleged violations of the separation of church and state. In Nebraska, a 10-year-old boy was prohibited from reading his Bible silently during free time. He was then told he could not even open his Bible at school because doing so was against the law. State by state, religious freedoms have been taken away since 1947 and 1962 and 1963, as militant humanism has taken hold in government offices, in the federal courts, in the state courts, and in our education system in the United States. The religious freedom guarantees of the First Amendment our country lived by for the first 170 years of the Constitution have been decimated. Here's now what religious freedom looks like in the United States. Less and less, as it's being systematically eradicated from the public square. A bibliography of all those cases I just named, I recommend to you the book The Myth of Separation. Militant Humanism, The Freedoms That Have Been Lost. I hope this gives you some reason to ponder and consider taking action to maintain and to regain your religious freedom and liberty. My name is Craig Seibert. Thanks for listening.